enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, gang? Sorry for the little hiccup there to get started, but welcome to another episode of Habs After Dark. Bienvenue tout le monde à Notre émission de Bleu, Blanc, Rouge, Nuit. Je m'appelle Devin. My name is Devin. Une autre grande victoire, grosse victoire des Canadiens de Montréal ce soir. Une grosse victoire de 6-2 contre les Panthers de la Floride. Les gagnants de la Coupe Stanley les 2 années passées. Alors, ça fait un gros victoire pour Montréal. Un deuxième match de suite à la maison, au Centre Bell, où les Canadiens ont dominé leur opposition. Another big win for the Canadiens, 6-2 over the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and back-to-back games at the Bell Center where the Canadiens were the dominant team. I think things were a little bit closer tonight if you look at the statistics, especially the advanced stats, but certainly there was no question tonight who the better team was. The Canadiens were pretty tight on defense, obviously a much stronger team in Florida than the Calgary Flames, but they were able to, again, the score is perhaps not indicative of how the play was. I think it was probably a little bit closer than 6-2. However, it definitely was a game that the Canadiens deserved to win, and despite the fact that Florida did make a little bit of a push at the end before the Canadiens were able to score the empty net goal and the final goal from Texier. Alors, c'est un match où je pense que c'est un match plus près que le match d'hier soir contre les Flames, mais c'est une équipe bien meilleure que Calgary ce soir. Les Panthers c'est une meilleure équipe. Je pense que peut-être le score final de 6-2, ça représente peut-être pas le jeu de ce soir, mais c'est sûr que les Canadiens ont été la meilleure équipe et ont bien travaillé pour gagner ce match ce soir. C'est un match qu'ils ont mérité gagner. Alors pour moi, ça fait 2 soirs de suite des excellents matchs. Alors l'étoile de la soirée encore, c'est Alexandre Texier. Il fait 5 buts en 2 matchs. C'est un joueur que les Canadiens ont payé après que les Blues de Saint-Louis ont laissé passer. Again, the start tonight, Alexandre Texier with a hat trick after scoring 2 against Calgary last night. That's 5 goals in 2 games. Again, looking to turn his career around after having his contract terminated by the St. Louis Blues. So I bet you that they would love to get that back, get him back into the lineup. But unfortunately, things did not work out for him in St. Louis. And it's nice to see not only a player who is able to, at least for now, turn his career around, but, to see him enjoying hockey, right? Smiling, playing with a group of guys that appear to, to like him, that he appears to like. It's a good group of players. So let's start the show, guys. Bienvenue. On va commencer l'émission. Si vous avez des questions ou des commentaires, vous pouvez les poser dans la section de commentaires. If you have questions or comments, feel free to fire away. I certainly invite and love to hear what you guys have to say. I don't want to just talk to you guys about the game. I want to, converse with you, have a discussion. So if there's any topics that you want to talk about, whether it's in relation to tonight's game, the Montreal Canadiens in general, or even, the NHL, at large. I know there's a lot of talk right now going on about the Olympic teams and who has been picked by the various countries, and whether people agree with the picks or don't agree with the picks. But we will go through tonight's game. We'll talk about it. We'll go through the scoreboard. We'll do our A team, which, as those of you who are here on a regular basis know, is our version of the 3 stars. And then we'll take whatever questions you guys have. So the more questions and comments you guys have, the better the show will go, and the more conversation we'll have. Alors, si vous me donnez plus de questions et commentaires, c'est votre meilleure émission. On va avoir plus à parler. On peut parler au sujet des Canadiens, au sujet de la match de ce soir, ou même au sujet de l'hockey en général. On sait que tout le monde en parle en ce moment au sujet des Jeux olympiques et les équipes qui ont été choisies par les États-Unis, le Canada, la Suède, la Finlande. Et il y a beaucoup de conversations si on a choisi les bons joueurs, pas des bons joueurs. Um, alors, si vous avez des commentaires à ce sujet, on peut aussi parler à ça. C'est certainement une meilleure émission si vous avez des questions et des commentaires. So, like I said, fire away, guys. Give me your questions, your comments. If you're not subscribed to the show yet or to the channel, you can hit the button down below. Hit the notification bell. We do invite as many new members as possible. We're trying to get our membership up. Prior to last night, it had been a while since I'd done a show, but we are trying to get our membership up. And what we try to offer you here is some intelligent, objective conversations about the Canadiens. We try and avoid the rah-rah fan stuff and kind of stick to the facts and the reality of things. There's a lot of other places you can go for the rumors and the sensationalism, but if you want to just keep it real, this is what we try to do here. Alors, si vous voulez le sensationnalisme et les choses comme ça, vous avez beaucoup de place pour en parler, mais si vous voulez des conversations intelligentes et objectifs au sujet des Canadiens, vous êtes à la bonne endroit. So, tonight, guys, again, I said 6-2 Montreal Canadiens. Victory over the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. The Canadiens at this very moment currently stand in first place in the Atlantic Division, and they are first place in the Eastern. Actually, that's not true. They're a point behind the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, I believe, just finished their game tonight. Let's just see the scoreboard here. The did I say Carolina Panthers? I meant the Hurricanes. Yeah, the Hurricanes just defeated the Ducks 5-2. So the Hurricanes are 1 point ahead of the Canadiens in the Eastern Conference. However, the Canadiens do sit atop of the Atlantic Division, firmly in a playoff spot. They are tied with the Detroit Red Wings, but have a game in hand, and they are a point ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Lightning have 2 games in hand on the Canadiens. So, bonjour, c'est pas moi. Welcome to the show. I don't know if you're here because of Alexandre Texier, your countryman from France, but welcome. It's great to see you, and if you have any questions or want to talk about the game tonight, I certainly invite you to do so. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We're happy to have you. Welcome. So as it stands, the Canadiens are firmly in a playoff spot. They have a record of 7-1-2 in their last 10 games. They've won 3 games in a row. They now have their goal differential at a +7. We have a goal differential of a +7. C'est pas moi says, we are so blessed. What a rebuild from Hughes. I think you mean Hughes, but that's fine. We know who you mean. I agree. I think the Canadiens have been very, very fortunate to have Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton in charge, Martin St. Louis as the coach. This has been a rebuild that has, just been successful at every turn. I obviously have. For those of you who are regulars on the show, they know, I went to high school with Kent Hughes, so I certainly, have a special place in my heart for the fact that he is the one that is, one of the ones anyway who's driving this ship. But I'm a huge fan of this rebuild. I think it's gone very, very well. I think they've taken a very intelligent approach to it. I think they've, abandoned old school traditional approaches to hockey when they don't serve the team, and they've adopted new ones when it helps as well. So I'm a huge fan of this rebuild. I think it's gone really, really well. And I'm not just talking about as far as, rebuilding the team, the roster. I'm talking about the entire organization, whether it's, the culture, the identity, the entire thing has been impressive to me from the Montreal Canadiens. Where do I believe Martin St. Louis will put the injured players when they come back? It's a good question, c'est pas moi. It's hard to say because, I mean, we don't know when guys are going to come back. We don't know whether there will be any other injuries. I certainly think that Kirby Dach will get an opportunity to see what he can do on the top two lines, whether it's, joining Caulfield and Suzuki. But again, we're seeing Alexandre Texier, plant his stake pretty firmly right now, and it's it'd be hard right now to take him off of that first line. But I do think that Dach will get an opportunity to see if he can make it on the top six. I think that when Caden Gooley comes back, I think you'll see probably Struble initially be the one who goes to the press box. I think he'll probably rotate in a little bit from time to time with Arbor Jacki, whether that's a 1-for-1. We shall see. I don't know whether it'll be a 1-for-1. Probably not. But I think it probably will be Struble right now, who probably gets the short straw. Who else are we looking at? We're looking at who else has to come back? Oh my God! I mean, Laine is going to be a tough one. I mean, it's going to be tough to find a spot for him. I do think they'll give him a chance, but I think the leash will be short. Laine will have to prove that he, can be more than just a penalty or a power play specialist. I think he's going to have to be more than that. I think he's capable of being more than that if he's healthy, which hopefully he is. But he's going to have to earn it. I'm not a Laine hater. I know there's a lot of Laine haters out there who would rather see him gone. I don't. I would love to see him be part of this team. I think he's a great asset if he is able to be healthy and is able to play up to his potential. Newhook, I guess we're looking at after the Olympics before Newhook comes back. So there's, again, I'm not sure where everybody will go. Evans, Anderson, those guys will come back as well. I think you probably see Owen Beck eventually get sent back to Laval as the bottom six guys start to return to the lineup. But yeah, it's really hard to make any predictions because you don't know who's coming back. You don't know when they're coming back. And again, there could be other injuries as well, right? Somebody could go down. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean that's the real thing here right now, right? I mean it's obviously a good thing, c'est pas moi, that the team is playing fantastically with like 5 starters out of the lineup. Like they're missing Anderson, Evans, Gooley, Dach, Newhook, and Laine. So 6 guys who you could legitimately call regulars on this team are out of the lineup, and they're basically at or near the top of the division or of the conference. So it's a great problem to have, but it's also it's also a tough. It makes for some tough decisions for the coaching staff when these guys start to come back. I mean, I think Gooley definitely has a spot waiting for him when he comes back, but the good thing is that now you don't have to rush him. You can make sure that he's healthy, and you can make sure that he's, ready to return to the lineup. You don't have to, you don't have to like, oh geez, sorry, I'm just looking at the thing here. You don't have to get him back in the lineup because you're desperate, to get him back. The same could be said for Newhook, right? Or even for Dach, right? You don't have to rush Dach back to the lineup. You can let him come back in his own time and make sure that he's more than ready to come back when the time comes, when it's his turn to get back into the lineup. So yeah, I mean it's a great problem to have. But it does make for some tough decisions, facing the team and the coaching staff, over the next several weeks, right? Especially on the bottom 6, like you've got guys like Blais and Deneau and Texier, and even I guess you could say Veleno, who have been sort of band-aids that have been brought into this team to get them through this period of injuries where they're dealing with guys who are out of the lineup, and all four of those guys have earned themselves spots on the roster, and they all deserve to be there. It's how do you demote Alexandre Texier right now? How do you demote Samuel Blais? How do you demote Joe Veleno? How do you demote Philippe Danault? What do you do? I mean, obviously, maybe now you can make some trades and again, you can use these guys as assets to bring in something new. And again, it's, people forget that the Canadiens' goal is to be perennial Stanley Cup contenders, right? So, you can trade your excess and get draft picks, right? Because, being a perennial contender means that you want to win, you want to be competitive year after year after year. So, you don't want to just empty, you can go out and trade, one of these guys for, a first or second round draft pick. You can do those things. So, it's all predicated on how well the injured players do when they come back. Build another team. Yeah, you could do that, but again, if your goal is to be a perennial contender, you can trade some of your current guys. If you have an excess of bottom six forwards, you can trade a couple of them, and get back, some first or second round draft picks, maybe not next year or the year. I think you can only go as 3 years. I think the furthest you can go down the road is 3 years, but you can get a first round draft pick or a couple of first round draft picks for 2027 or 2028, right? Or 2029. So, and those draft picks will be guys who, may be on this team in the future when, this group of players start to age out, when Nick Suzuki, is in, starting to, get a little older, and, when Jake Evans and those types of guys are no longer around. So, there's a lot of opportunities, lots of possibilities there. Only time will tell. And again, it's, predicting these things is difficult because we would never have guessed that this would be the way things would go, right? Like at the beginning of the year, all people wanted to talk about was a second line centerman, right? Oh, the Canadiens need a second line centerman. The Canadiens need a second line centerman. They're desperate. If they don't get a second line centerman, it's going to be a disaster. The world is going to end if they don't get a second line centerman, right? And if you were a regular here, I told you, they don't need a second line centerman. They don't. They didn't need to make a trade. And now, 3 months later, it's, we need to, now they need to get another winger to play with, Suzuki and Caulfield, right? Because now they don't need a second line center. Now all of a sudden you've got Alexandre Texier, who's got 5 goals in 2 games. And now, we're not that worried about, finding somebody to play with Suzuki and Caulfield. So, things change all the time. So, getting into, trying to predict the future and guess what things, need to be done now and what things might need to happen in the future is kind of it's a losing battle, right? You're never going to get it right. And, it's kind of silly. And the man, good hockey managers, Kent Hughes knows this, right? Kent Hughes knows that there's no value, there's no need to be desperate for a second line center, or that there was no need to be, sometimes you need guys like, you might, when he went out and got Philippe Danault, and, when he went out and got Alexandre Carrier last year, like those are trades that you make because they kind of fall in your lap a little bit. But, a good general manager isn't out there desperately looking for, something specific, because that's when you get yourself in trouble, right? That's when you end up bringing in guys who end up hurting your organization or being a burden on the organization from, a financial perspective, or even, from that's when you end up with guys like I'm trying to think of examples. Some of the guys who, Marc Bergevin brought in, like let's go back to Canadiens roster 2019. Let's try that. Montreal Canadiens 2019-2020 roster. That's when you end up with guys like Marco Scandella and Lucas Vejdemo, Cale Fleury, Carl Ulsner, Charlie Lindgren wasn't that bad, Riley Barber, Mike Riley. That's when you end up with guys like that on your team. Jordan Wheel, right? Like when you're out desperately looking for players, that's when you end up with guys like that on your team. Even the upcoming players like Jorovsky or H.A.D, so many players to come, it becomes hard to know what to do with them all. Absolutely, right? It's, again, there's no guarantee on Jorovsky and H.A.D, and, anytime you have prospects, there's always the possibility that they're not going to work out and they're not going to be, what you expect them to be. And sometimes they're going to be more than you expect them to be, right? Jorovsky and H.A.D might not work out, but there might be some minor prospect out there that we're not even really thinking about who might turn into something. Like look at Oliver Kapanen, right? Oliver Kapanen wasn't a guy that everyone thought would be playing the kind of role that he is on the Canadiens right now. If you'd asked somebody 2 years ago, where Oliver Kapanen is in the grand scheme of things, they probably would have said, well, he probably won't amount to much in the NHL, if anything at all. And now, he's leading the NHL, or tied for the lead in the NHL, or maybe he has the lead right now for goals by rookie. Right? Who expected that? Right? So, prospects, sometimes they don't work out and sometimes they exceed expectations. So, there's guys like Jorovsky coming along. There's guys like H.A.D. There's guys like Bryce Pickford, who, L.J. Mooney, who have big names. But then there's guys like, Hayden Papanikis and Logan Sawyer and Sam Harris. And, one of these guys might turn out to be a surprise. And one of the big name guys might not turn out to be anything. But again, it's, we talked about the rebuild earlier. And, the rebuild is more than just about building the roster. I think one of the great things that the Canadiens have done in this rebuild is they've made development and scouting a focus. They've focused on that, and the result has been in the last 4 years, I guess it is, since Hughes and Gorton took over. They've done a much better job of drafting players to the organization, and then beyond that, they've done a better job of developing these players once they get with the organization, right? It's not it's not just about having smart scouts who pick the right players. It's also about having the right people in place so that when these guys show up, they have the resources and they have the coaching so that they can have the best opportunity to succeed, right? You see. Over the summer, we saw all these guys on the ice with Adam Nicholas, and we see that they now have the development camp, and we see all of this. They've now set up the complex CN in Brossard, with a gym and with a nutritionist and with they basically have access to meals and every weight room, all that kind of stuff. Like so all of these coaches and resources. So that these guys can succeed, right? And that's why their players are making it to the NHL at a much higher rate, and they're better players. C'est pas moi. Good talking with you. Thanks for your replies and like your vision of not precipitating things for the Canadiens. Got to have a good one. C'est pas moi. If you are in France. Bonsoir, et I hope you have a great day and enjoy the rest of your, well, I guess it's probably in the middle of the night over there in France right now, but have a great one, and we'll see you next time. All right, gang, let's get to our scoreboard for tonight. I did notice I already have a mistake on the scoreboard, but we'll address that when we get there. As I mentioned, 6-2 final, Canadiens over the Florida Panthers. Again, the star of the night was Alexandre Texier with the 3 goals. The scoring was opened at 2:59 of the first period by Noah Dobson. Big shot from the blue line was deflected by the one of the Panthers defenders and beat Bobrovsky. Assist on that one went to Matheson and Kapanen. Then Kapanen scored a nice goal. It was kind of a weird goal, but a nice one. Slavkovsky won a battle behind the net, kicked the puck out in front. Bobrovsky tried to intercept the pass with his stick, knocked it in the air, and Kapanen was able to knock it out of the air baseball style. I liked the commentary on I believe it was on the TSN broadcast, because I think I watched the first period on TSN. Soccer and baseball results in a hockey goal. Really nice goal by Kapanen, assisted by Slavkovsky, who again, as we know, is just taken off in the last month or so, and is showing us a little bit of that potential that everybody who was paying attention knew that he had when the Canadiens drafted him first overall. Florida scored a fluky one, 5:33 into the second period. Montembeault, who had been having a great game up to that point, and did end up having a great game. A bit of a blunder behind the net. He tried to clear the puck and put it right onto Sam Bennett's stick, who was able to just put the puck into the empty net from a bit of a tough angle, but again, an NHL player is not going to miss that shot. So a bit of a blunder by Montembeault, and a bit of an easy goal, for Sam Bennett, unassisted at 5:33. About 10 minutes later at 13:41, Alexandre Texier with his first of the game from Carrier and Suzuki. Just a nice goal. He's just standing on the doorstep and deflects a Carrier shot, pass, whatever you want to call it. He's able to deflect it into the empty net back door. Scores 3-1 after the first period. The Canadiens go up 4-1 on Texier's second goal of the game from Matheson at 7:26. Florida, makes a game of it at 11:23 on Sam Bennett's second goal of the game from Evan Rodriguez at 11:23. At that point, it looks like Florida might make it a bit of a game, might make it a little bit close. The Canadiens, they say, what do they say? A 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey. The Canadiens do hang on, although Florida does press a little bit. And finally, I think with about 4 minutes left in the game, Florida pulls their goaltender. Slavkovsky is able to score an empty net goal. Slavkovsky is basically going to end up going in on a breakaway on the empty net, and the Florida defender slashes his stick. Actually, doesn't really slash it that hard, but slashes his stick and breaks his stick just as he's about to take the shot into the empty net. And the referees award him the automatic goal, being a foul from behind or a penalty from behind on an empty net. The assists go to Kapanen and Hudson. Hudson gets on the board, not to be outdone. He had a point streak going, so it's nice to see him get on the board. There's about 2 minutes left in the game at that point. And then with just under a minute left, Texier scores his hat-trick goal from Blais and Veleno at 19:09. 19:09, there it is. That's a famous number in Montreal Canadiens history. And Blais and Veleno get the puck to the net, and the puck kind of just ends up in the air, and Texier bats it out of the air baseball style. Second baseball style goal of the game. And the Canadiens are up 6-2, and that's the way it ends. Just to go through quickly the advanced stats, Corsi, these are in all situations. So again, I think that Florida ended up with more power plays tonight. They ended up with more power play time than the Canadiens. So those numbers will be, that fact will be reflected in the numbers. Let me just see here, just so I can be sure that I'm not leading you astray there. Actually, the Canadiens actually had more power plays tonight. So there you go. Anyways, shot attempts 62-45 in favor of the Panthers. The shots on goal were actually, I've got that backwards, I think, on the scorecard there. It's actually 26-20 in favor of the Panthers tonight. The hits were even at 18-18. The face-off wins, Florida won 33 and the Canadiens won 26. High danger chances, I've got that wrong. That's the numbers from last night's game. The high danger chances tonight were 12-9 in favor of the Panthers, and the expected goals were 3.69 to 3.36. So again, this is a game where the Canadiens, the 6-2 score doesn't necessarily reflect the way the game was played, but the Canadiens certainly were the better team and deserved the win. So I am wondering if anybody else out there has any questions or comments now that we're done with the scoreboard. We will eventually get to the A team. If you have any thoughts on the A team, like I said, the A team is our version of the 3 stars. It's the 4 players. We pick 4, representing the 4 members of the A team. And if you have any thoughts on who you would pick for the A team, then certainly let us know in the comment section. And we'll compare notes when we get there. If you're over here on TikTok, come join us on YouTube. Recliner Sports 4 is our channel. Come check us out, and we are live right now. And if you want to participate, the best way to do that with your questions and comments is in the comment section here on YouTube. Si vous avez des questions, des commentaires, vous pouvez les poser. J'aimerais bien vous répondre. C'est une bien meilleure émission si on a de la participation et vous me donnez des questions, des sujets à en parler. If you want to give me some questions or comments, I certainly makes for a more enjoyable and exciting show.
In Canada.
Oop. All right. So if we're not going to have questions or comments, give us a thumbs up as well, guys. If you're enjoying the what you're seeing, if you're enjoying the content, then hit the thumbs up button, and let's do that. All right, well, why don't we just move right to the A team then for tonight? Like I said, the A team is my version or our version of the stars of the game. We pick 4, and here they are. So there you have it, guys. For the second night in a row, Alexandre Texier is on our list. He is one of our 4 stars, one of our members of the A team. And in addition, we have Samuel Blais, Joe Veleno, and Samuel Montembeault. Alexandre Texier, there's not a whole lot of explanation required there. He scores a hat trick tonight, was dangerous entire game, could have probably had another goal or two, just, played a really, really strong game. I'm not sure whether he's the answer long term on the first line with Suzuki and Caulfield, but for right now, he's doing a great job, and he's really solidified the top 6 for Montreal. That second line has been very tough to play against, and now that second line seems to be back on track a little bit as well. It's funny, we're maybe not seeing as much from Suzuki and Caulfield as we did earlier in the season, despite the fact that that Texier is scoring all these goals. Texier's first goal was assisted by Carrier and Suzuki. His second goal was assisted by Matheson, and his third goal was assisted by Blais and Veleno. So, we're seeing a lot from Texier, but we're still not seeing. Again, I don't think we can say that Suzuki and Caulfield have struggled, but we're not seeing as much from them as we might have earlier in the season. Not a lot of explanation required for the Texier pick. Joe Veleno, I thought Joe Veleno had a great game tonight. He and Samuel Blais were spectacular. I thought they were active, they were skating, they were physical. They were forechecking well. Veleno was killing penalties, did a really, really nice job of killing penalties. I thought Veleno played well last night, too. I like Veleno as a player. I think he's really solidified his role on this team, and I think he's been really good, much better than a lot of people, seem to think he is. I thought he was really good tonight. I was impressed with him, and I continue to be impressed with him. He and Blais tonight both really, really strong advanced numbers on 5-on-5 tonight. Pardon me while I get there. Samuel Blais I believe Samuel Blais might have had a 100% expected goals. He did in all situations. Alexandre Blais, 100% expected goals percentage. 0.76 expected goals while he's on the ice, and no expected goals against while he was on the ice. Joe Veleno, 97.5%. Owen Beck, 97.3%. So that line was dominant tonight in all situations. They didn't play. Come on, I just missed it. Just lost it. What did they have on the ice? Veleno, 10 minutes and 40 seconds on the ice. Sammy Blais with only 7 minutes and 36 seconds. That seems low to me. Owen Beck, 7 minutes and 9 seconds. So again, those numbers are low. But again, they were while they were on the ice, they were very good tonight. Both Blais and Veleno are very deserving. Samuel Montembeault, I thought, had a really good game. I think I probably give him this star, this selection to the A team, because it's nice to see him back on his game. I don't think he was awesome tonight. I don't think he was spectacular, but he was very good. What do you have? 0.91 goals saved above expected tonight. Save percentage of .923. So yeah, those are really solid numbers. And again, all you want from your goaltender is for him to give you a chance to win. And Montembeault more than did that tonight. Obviously the first goal, Bennett's first goal was, a bit of a blunder. But again, that wasn't a blunder of bad goaltending. It was just more of a blunder of a miscommunication where he was trying to clear the puck and he put it right onto an opponent's stick. And it wasn't like he blew a shot that he should have saved or anything like that. So yeah, I thought that Montembeault had a very good game, and that's 2 good games in a row for him, and that's exactly what the Canadiens need right now. They need both Montembeault and Dobeš to get back on their games. Again, I'm more than excited at how well Jacob Fowler's playing, and I'm more and more I'm more convinced now, I guess, that it's not necessarily a bad thing that Fowler is playing at the NHL level, but I still think the best case scenario for Montreal is for for Fowler to ultimately go back to the American Hockey League, right? I think it's ultimately that's the best option for him to finish out the season there. To have a good playoff run and maybe get some playoff experience in Laval, and then see how things pan out for the for next year. But yeah, the best case scenario for Montreal is for Montembeault and Dobeš to be at the top of their game, and that appears to be more and more the case. I think we'll probably see Dobeš play tomorrow night. But Dobeš has had a couple of good starts in a row. Montembeault's had a couple of good starts in a row. So again, I don't think I would go as far as to say they're back, but things are looking a lot better from the goaltending perspective for the Canadiens. And that obviously has been the weakness on this team so far this season. And again, when we look at the team being, at or near the top of the conference at this point in the season, despite not having had very good goaltending for the first 2.5 months of the season until maybe up until mid-December. The goaltending was not ideal. I think that's pretty impressive that they've put together the kind of record that they have, and that they're in the position that they're in right now. So yeah, that's your members of the A team for tonight. You've got Texier, Veleno, Blais, and Montembeault. I think again it's Saint-Pamois was asking questions earlier, and we were talking a little bit about just the riches that the Canadiens have right now. Like all of these guys that they've brought into the lineup to cover for the players that are injured, and then all of the players that are going to come back. Hey, what's up, Entertap? Good to see you, man. It was good chatting with you earlier. All of these, the players that the Canadiens have brought in who are, exceeding expectations on top of the guys who are going to be coming back in the next, month or so. It's a bit of a, it's a good problem to have, but it's going to result in some, interesting questions, some interesting decisions that are going to have to be made by management and the coaching staff over the next several weeks. But it's much better to be in that position than the opposite. Again, it's just we'll see. It's nice to have those assets, and if you do have an excess of assets, you have a surplus, then you can use those assets to try and bring in other assets, right? Like even if it means trading a couple of bottom six forwards for a draft pick or two, even if it's 2 or 3 years down the road, right? Those are things that will help the Canadiens achieve their ultimate goal of being perennial contenders, right? It's not about just winning once. It's about winning over and over again, right? It's about winning time and time again. It's about being constantly competitive, and that means making sure that you have the opportunity to draft and develop players down the road. Let's see. Entertap is always good for having good choices for the A team tonight. Entertap's picks are Texier, Montembeault, Blais, and Kapanen. So, yeah, we agree essentially. You've picked Kapanen instead of Veleno. I picked Veleno. I think I have no argument with Kapanen. He obviously had a very strong game. I think 3 points. So it's kind of hard to leave a guy with 3 points off of the list. But again, I just was so impressed with Veleno both last night and tonight that I felt like I had to put him on there. Like I said, I mean, Veleno had a 97.5 expected goals percentage tonight. I mean, it was in limited ice time. What do we say? He only played like 8 minutes, I think, tonight. 10 minutes and 40 seconds. So, that's more than Sammy Blais played, right? Sammy Blais only played 7 minutes and 36 seconds. So for me, I mean, again, I have no problem with Kapanen. And that's, probably an indication that the Canadiens played well, is that, you have a hard time just picking 4 guys. As Entertap can attest, there were times last year at the beginning of the year where it was hard to think of 4 guys that even deserved to be on the list. But, it's nice to have the problem the other way around. But, yeah, I mean, Veleno on the penalty kill tonight I thought was great. And I just, I thought his forechecking, I thought he was moving his feet, and I thought he looked really, really good. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Entertap, but I'll do it again. I just was kind of getting into it a little bit here. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. When the injured players return, who stays, leaves, and who goes to Laval? I mean, the short answer is I don't know. I think it'll come down to, when are guys coming back? Are there going to be any other injuries, right? Like, is somebody else, is there a possibility somebody else might be hurt? I would have said before yesterday that Doc will get a shot on the first line when he comes back. They'll trial him there and see whether he can fit into that group, or even on the second line and move Slafkovsky back up to the first. What's up, Lucky? Good to see you. But again, with Texier playing the way he has the last 2 games, it would be hard to supplant him right now. I think Gouli obviously will just jump back into the lineup, and I think you'll probably see Struble go to the press box and maybe rotate in and out with Jack-Eye. Probably not on a 1-for-1 basis, but maybe as they're playing well. Who else? I mean, Laine is going to be. I mean, I don't know. What happens with Laine. I think he's going to need to be more than just a power play specialist for Montreal in order for him to get into the lineup. I think he will get an opportunity. I don't think it's going to be a case of them, not even giving him a shot. I know that's what a lot of people, a lot of fans would hope for. I don't. I think he deserves a shot. I think he'll get a shot, but I think the leash will be short, and I think that he'll get a chance, but he'll have to prove, and prove relatively quickly that he can contribute to the team, more than just on the power play. And hopefully he's healthy, and he's able to do that. Because I think if Patrick Laine can play up to his potential, that's a spectacular asset for the Montreal Canadiens to have. But he has to be healthy, and he has to be able to do that. Yeah, so just quickly to finish that off. Other guys, Newhook. I think Newhook would be an ideal guy on a third line. In a perfect world, maybe you have like a Newhook and a Kapanen on the third line together. So I don't know. There's lots of permutations there, but again, I think it will depend on, how these guys are, when they come back, whether there's any other injuries, and how they're able to perform when they come back. Do I believe that Dobesh might be part of a trade package? I don't know. I never thought of it. Is that going around? I think they would be. I think they would be mistaken right now to believe that Fowler is ready to be a full-time NHLer. I'm not saying that he's not on his way potentially to that, but I think you would be making a mistake to put all of your eggs in that basket right now. I think for me, I would much rather see Dobesh and Montembeault get back into form, which they look like they're doing, and finish out the year as the two goalies for the Canadiens. And send Fowler back to Laval. I think that's what I would. But again, every time I see him play, I'm becoming more and more convinced that he's going against the grain and going against the conventional wisdom that, young goalies need time before they can play in the NHL. Like he should, I'm not blind. I see it. I see that, when he first got called up, I would have said, you're crazy. Like, why are you calling him up? It's dumb. It's stupid. And obviously, every game he's played, he's, moved me more and more away from that point of view. But I'm still not convinced that it's the best thing for him to be in Montreal full time. But again, I get it. I get it that it's not. I get it that the facts are starting to slap me in the face a little bit, and that he's showing not just great play but maturity and being able to handle the day-to-day of playing in the NHL. So I guess I didn't really do a great job of answering your question, but the short answer to it is no. I don't think that would be a great idea, but I would say that if they do try to trade Dobesh, or if they do trade Dobesh, it'll be because they're very convinced that Fowler is ready to be in the NHL full time, and I trust their judgment on that. Lucky says Hughes probably up all night thinking about these decisions. Yeah, I think they probably spend a lot of time as a group talking about it. What do we do if this happens? What do we do if that happens? But again, I also think that those guys are smart enough to know that situations change, right? The situations can change all the time, and that like I said, at the beginning of the year, all anybody thought was that the Canadiens needed a second line center. I wasn't really on that boat, and Intertap will attest that I never really believed that the Canadiens quote unquote needed a second line center, but here we are, in January, and they don't need a second line center anymore, right? They now they 2 days ago you would have said they need another winger to play with Caulfield and Suzuki, and now 2 days later, Texier looks like he might be the guy. So things change all the time. So I think that if Hughes and Gorton and whoever else is involved in this decision making, Sedgwick and Vincent Lecavalier and all those, I think that they'll certainly, I think they'll be flexible. I think they'll understand that the situation is fluid and that, anything can happen from one day to the next, right? Some guy gets injured and all of a sudden your needs change completely. And so at the end of the day, I think it's probably a good position to be in for the Canadiens. Not going around, but no way they stick with a 3-goalie system. Dobesh would then go to Laval. Yeah, I agree. I don't think they'll stick with a 3-goalie system. Dobesh and Dobesh and Fowler are obviously the two that are eligible to be sent down to Laval. Montembeault would have to clear waivers, and I don't. I mean, I think we can all agree that wouldn't happen. I think he would probably get picked up. But again, for me, I still think that in a perfect world, Dobesh and Montembeault are at the top of their game and playing in Montreal, and Fowler is in Laval. I mean, I don't know. Again, I get that as every game gets played, that becomes more and more of a opposable contention, if I want to call it that. The argument against that position, gets stronger and stronger. I get that, but I still think it's that way. Hello. So I think you would like to see him play next year. I think he's ready. Yeah. Again, I don't know that he's ready. I know that he's played well. I know that he's shown, more than enough maturity so far. But I also know that he's only played whatever number of games it is in the NHL, and that he's only, played. I mean, what are we talking about? Like, I know that he's played. Stand by. I mean, he's played 8 games with the Montreal Canadiens, and he's played 26 games in his entire pro career, right? And so for me, I don't know whether he's ready, and I think it would be, I think we can think that he's ready, but again, would it be wise to trade away another goalie at this stage? Because what if he's not ready, and you've traded away Dobesh, right? Like, Dobesh is not a bum. Like, Dobesh is, a very capable goalie who, could be very good as well. So again, I just don't know that it's smart to make that move yet. I don't know that the evidence is there. You need to be pretty damn sure that he's ready if you're going to do that. Not easy to answer any questions right now. Even Hughes himself said he doesn't have all the info he needs yet. Yeah. And I mean, I think, like I said a minute ago, I think that Hughes understands that, even if you do have the info could change, right? The info could change tomorrow. Like I said, Alexandre Texier goes out and scores 5 goals in 2 games. Well, guess what? The information just changed. Jacob Fowler comes in and goes 4-2-2 with a .912 save percentage in his first 8 games in the NHL. Now the situation's changed. Samuel Montembeault has 2 good starts in a row. Well, now the situation has changed a little bit, right? The information is different. Jakub Dobesh has a couple good starts in a row, and now the goaltending seems to be, solid. Now they've got, for the last 3 weeks or so, they've had solid goaltending from 3 different goalies. So, that's a lot different than what the information was in December, right? I'll come back to your question in a second, Andrew. Some goalies are ready at a young age. Yeah, but it doesn't happen very often, Frank, and it hasn't happened in a long time. Like, when's the last time you've seen a 21-year-old goalie, who's the last 21-year-old goalie to be a full-time NHLer and succeed? I can't remember. I mean, yeah, we could talk about Patrick Roy, and we could talk about, but that's 30 years ago. More than 30 years ago. So, it's just, again, I'm not saying he can't do it, and I'm just saying that if he does do it, he's going against the grain. He's going against the conventional wisdom that young goalies need time to develop. Yeah, Ken Dryden did it, but that's even, that's 50 years ago. But yeah, I mean, I would love for it to happen. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love it. I mean, you probably, you got Frank, you're a regular here, Entertap, you're a regular here. You probably know that I'm pretty conservative about this kind of stuff. I'm the guy who thinks that, maybe they, I like to consider all of the scenarios, I guess. So, Entertap says, can't underestimate the importance of having picked up Danault. Puck possession allows Habs to dictate the game they want to play and not chase the game all night, not to mention his defensive acumen. Yeah, I think that he's a good addition. I think he's not unlike the addition of Alexandre Carrier last year, right? I think he's not unlike, you're plugging a guy in who, makes the team better, in less obvious ways, right? It's not like it's not like he's going out there, scoring, a point or 2 points a night. He's not out there being another Lane Hudson. He's not out there being another Nick Suzuki. But you're right, like the little things, right? Winning faceoffs and being a strong defensive guy, killing penalties, all these little things, right? And that's the same thing that Carrier did, right? Carrier didn't, sort of step in and become the next, the next coming of Larry Robinson. He just came in and, he settled down the lineup a little bit. He allowed, certain defensemen to play on their strong side, and he did stuff like that. But yeah, it's been good. But again, like, do you what's the long-term future of Phillip Danault with the Montreal Canadiens? Right? Like, is he, like, where is Phillip Danault on this team? Is this Phillip Danault on this team next year? And if he is, what position is he playing? I think Patrick Roy was 20 when he came up. Frank, I think he was 20 when he was right out of junior. He was right out of junior. I believe Ken Dryden was right out of college as well. So, yeah, I mean, what, like, I'll throw that question back at you, Entertap. Where do you see Phillip Danault next year? Is he with the Canadiens next year? And if he is, where is he playing? And who's he playing with? Like, I mean, I can see him being on a fourth line next year. I mean, if everybody's healthy, is he on a fourth line with Evans and Gallagher? And if he is on a fourth line with Evans and Gallagher, does that mean that Owen Beck is still in Laval? What does it mean for Josh Anderson? Where's Josh Anderson? Because Josh Anderson has another year on his contract, right? And so again, it's I don't know. This all, and again, if somebody's hurt, then it all of a sudden that question kind of goes away. Yeah, you're right, Frank. You never know. I mean, again, I'm not saying, like, Jacob Fowler could be the guy, right? Like here's a great example. Lane Hudson, right? Lane Hudson stepped into the NHL last year as a 5'9", 165-pound, 20-year-old defenseman, right? And the conventional wisdom would be that that guy isn't going to step into the NHL and produce right away, right? The conventional wisdom would be you need to protect that guy. You need to, like the Ducks did with Leo Carlson, right? Load management. Don't put him out there in maybe let him sit every second or third game, and make sure that he's not on the ice in certain situations. And you want to give him limited ice time, and you want to protect him so that he doesn't get hurt because all the big hockey play. Well, guess what? Lane Hudson just stepped into the NHL, and at his small size, he was great. He didn't really skip a beat. Now obviously he had some improvement to do, and he had to get better at certain things, and he had to work on his defense, and he got better. But the whole conventional wisdom of small young defensemen needing time to develop. Well, Lane Hudson, just kind of ignored that, right? And so is Jacob Fowler cut from that same cloth? Is Jacob Fowler cut from that same cloth? Like, who knows? Is Jacob Fowler a guy who will come in and, despite what everybody thinks about young goaltenders, is he going to just walk in and seamlessly become a regular NHL goalie? Maybe. I don't know. What's going to happen with Joshua Roy? My understanding is Joshua Roy is injured at the moment. I think he's out for 4 to 6 weeks with a hand injury. I'm looking at my big board over here. Here's my big board, guys. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but you see that? That's the Canadiens depth chart. So you got the Canadiens at the top. You got Laval in the middle. You've got Trois-Rivières at the bottom. And then along the left-hand side, you've got the top 15 prospects, or the top 15 players who are not currently playing pro hockey. Danault has one more year left, and he stays as a short-term gap filler on the third line. They have someone coming to fill the role, Jarofsky and Hage. Well, again, so if he's, I don't see him. If everybody's healthy, I don't see Danault on the third line. If he's on the third line, where is Newhook? Where is Kapanen? Where is Doc? Where is Laine? Where are all those guys? Like, where's Gallagher? Where's Anderson? To me, Danault would be, if he's with the Canadiens next year and everybody's healthy, I think he's got to be more of a fourth line guy. I think he would want. Where's Bolduc? Where is I don't know. Any chance this year or next year Galley starts getting scratched? Just curious to know what I think. There's always a chance. The thing with Gallagher is you just never know what you're going to get from him. I think Gallagher is a guy who, when he's in the right situation, is a very valuable player for the Canadiens. When he's been given the right amount of ice time, when he's got the right partners, when he's got the right line mates, I think he can be a valuable contributor to the team. But just when you think that Gallagher is done, like last year, right? Like, everyone thought Gallagher was done at the beginning of last year, and then he comes out and scores 21 goals. I don't know. I think that in the right role, I think Gallagher is an important player on this team. I think he probably, again, am I saying he'll never get scratched? No, but I suspect he'll be allowed to play out the rest of his contract, and I think you'll probably see him make an exit, not unlike the one that David Savard made last year. He'll be in a fourth line role, and he'll, be on the ice, and, maybe he sits out every third or fourth game and, announces his retirement maybe a month or so before it happens, and he sticks with the organization and plays some kind of role with the organization afterwards. So that's the way I see it. I think he deserves that. I think he does, still contribute on the ice. He certainly contributes off the ice. I think that the players like him. I think he's a respected teammate, and I think he's a good role model and a good mentor for the younger players. My TV's not really working for me here. I don't know what happened. Evans as fourth line center. Eventually, you put Kapanen as third line center, and hopefully Hage becomes your 2C. Okay. I mean, I don't think that happens next year. But even then, I don't like. I don't know. I just think that for me, if Danault is on this team next year, I think I don't think he can be any higher in the lineup than on the fourth line. I mean, you use him as a specialist, right? You use him as your specialist left-hand face-off guy. You use him as a defensive specialist. You use him as a penalty killer. I don't think he plays as high in the lineup as a third liner. I think your third liners, would be, more like guys like Bolduc, Kirby Doc, Alex Newhook, guys like that. Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Gallagher. I know Montreal Canadiens fans can be pretty fickle, lucky, but Brendan Gallagher has given a lot to the organization. He's been loyal to the organization. I think he deserves loyalty in return. I think he, not only has he, obviously, not only has he played his entire career in Montreal, but I mean, he sacrificed his body. I mean, that guy's put his body through like holy hell as a Montreal Canadiens. He's mangled both of his hands, one blocking or getting hit by a slap shot from Shea Weber, another one getting hit by a slap shot by I don't remember who. He's broken an ankle. All of the this was a pretty offensively talented guy when he first came to the NHL, and now he's like one of the he's like Mike Ricci or one of those other guys who just his body has just been beaten to hell, and he just continues to go out there. And one thing about Brendan Gallagher, it might not look pretty, but he's going to go out there and he's going to he's going to give you everything he has on every single shift. So that's yeah. I mean, again, the thing with Gallagher is that just when you think he's finished and there's nothing more for him to give, he sort of turns it around and shows you something. And I think he's played well in the last little while, but there are games out there where he just looks like he can barely stand up on his skates, and he looks a little bit slow. I thought he looked great tonight. I thought he was quick. I thought he was good. On the forecheck, he was good in pursuit. He was when he was good. He forced some turnovers. He forced guys to make mistakes. I thought he was he kept up very well tonight. So yeah, I think that's going to be it, guys. If you are not yet subscribed and you are watching, I see Frank is actually on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. If you're not subscribed, hit the button down below. Si vous n'êtes pas souscrit, vous n'êtes pas membre ici, vous pouvez pousser sur le bouton en bas. I think business decisions will have to be made. I agree completely, Entertap, but I think they'll wait until they absolutely have to make those decisions, because again, like I said, I think that the situation changes, right? I think that the situation can always change, and if you let's again, the Dobesh situation, right? Like let's say they make a business decision to trade Dobesh and then Montembeault gets hurt, or they make a business decision to trade Dobesh and Fowler has 3 or 4 bad starts in a row, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a big Mets fan, Fitness King. I just like the hat. I know people hate that. I'm a big baseball fan, but the Mets are not one of my favorite teams, and I don't follow them that closely. But yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not trying to disagree with you here, Entertap. I agree. Business decisions will have to be made. I mean, there's obviously, cap implications. There's roster implications as far as how many guys you can keep. There's players who come back are going to have to prove that they belong in the lineup, because the players who replace them have more than proven that they belong in the lineup, right? Texier's proven he belongs in the lineup. Veleno has proven he belongs in the lineup. Sammy Blais has proven he belongs in the lineup. Even Owen Beck has proven he belongs in the lineup. I mean, Owen Beck is kind of a different situation because he's still young and can still go down to the minors. But if Alex Newhook comes back and he can't play better than, Alexandre Texier, then, guess what? Something's got to be done. So, these are tough decisions, but I think they're good decisions that the Canadiens will have to make. Thanks so much, Frank. I'm glad you enjoyed. It was always a pleasure. They could convince Galley to retire and assume a role within the organization and make room for youth to join him. Yeah, I mean that could happen. Do you feel that he's there? Is he at that stage right now, Intertap? Do you feel that? Yeah, you're right, Intertap. I don't agree with you on that. I mean, I mean, if they come back from injury and they like literally can't keep up anymore, then yeah, I think that's possible. But I think they're both going to be given every opportunity to show that they belong on the team. I think the team does believe that both of those players have potential to be contributors on the team. I don't think they're going to let them walk just because they're surplus or because they have too many players or they have too many guys in a certain role. I mean, if Doc comes back and plays really really well, then you don't have to worry about letting. I don't think you're going to let him walk. I mean, you can try and trade him. You can try and trade his rights. You can do whatever. I mean, obviously you're not going to get a ton for him if you're only trading his rights. But I mean, again, of course it's possible. I mean, if they're the odd man out, in the off season, then that could definitely happen. But again, I think they'll both be given an opportunity to show that they belong on the team when they come back. Should MLB baseball, should MLB, because MLB has baseball in it already, have a salary cap? I don't know. I mean, obviously the luxury tax doesn't seem to do a great job of ensuring parity or whatever. So, enter tap. Let me see. I think Montreal's game now is predicated on speed and skating, and Galley is not able to keep up anymore. He was tonight, and he had. I think he is capable of it. I don't think he's capable of playing more than 12 or 13 minutes a game, and perhaps he's not capable of doing it every single night. I mean, there's no doubt that Galley's body is breaking down. But again, I mean, he had 21 goals last year, so so it's hard. It's hard to. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel that he's yet reached the point where he's become that much of a liability. I agree with you that he's not. His game, his style does not match the game that the Canadiens want to play. But again, I think there's place for I don't think that Philip Deneau's style fits the game the Canadiens want to play. But I think there's a role for a fourth line role for guys like that. Right? There's a fourth line role for guys like Galley, for Jake Evans, for Philip Deneau, for Joe Veleno. Joe Veleno, I think, is probably a good enough skater to keep up. For Sammy Blais, I think there's a role for those guys, and especially on a young rebuilding team, there's definitely a role for a guy like Gallagher from a mentorship and leadership point of view. And again, I think it sends a good message to I think that if Gallagher were to be sort of asked or convinced to retire, I think the Canadiens would have to be very careful about how they do that, because he's a popular guy, and the culture is a very important thing with this team, and Gallagher is part of this group, and I think all of these business decisions that we're talking about, you have to be careful with them, right? Because if you make a business decision to get rid of a guy who is part of, this close-knit group or close-knit family that we, keep hearing about, then you run the risk of, souring things a little bit with that culture and with that environment. Habs definitely looked fast tonight after playing fast last night. Absolutely. Lucky, I agree with you. In fact, I had somebody tell me last night that they thought that the Canadiens, the way they play is not sustainable because it's too fast and they run around too much and they skate too much and they pass too much, and that's just going to come back to bite them, especially when it comes playoff time. And I was like, are you crazy? This is what hockey looks like now. This is what hockey looks like. I could see Galley being part of player development. His father was a strength and conditioning coach in the Western Hockey League. Again, that could be a role he plays. So, again, I think that Brendan Gallagher, deserves every opportunity to remain a part of the Montreal Canadiens. At least, for as long as he wants, really. So. Yeah. Anyways, I think I'm going to end the show, guys. It's after midnight here. I do appreciate you coming by, Lucky, Frank, and Entertap. I know you probably came over at the end of Coach's show, and I do appreciate you guys doing that. Thanks so much for your questions, for your participation, for your comments. They help the show. And as I always say, I'd rather talk with you guys than talk at you guys, and you guys asking great questions is really helpful. Sorry I didn't get into the baseball stuff with you there, Fitness King. I apologize, but don't really have the time to get into the baseball stuff too much. I don't really know a ton about it. I don't think that it's cheating what the larger market teams do in baseball. They're doing it within the rules, so I don't really believe that's cheating. But yeah. That's it for tonight. C'est tout. C'est tout pour ce soir. C'est une victoire de 6-2 pour les Canadiens contre les Panthers de la Floride. A big 6-2 win for the Canadiens over Florida. They go back at it on Saturday night against the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings, who they are battling for the lead in the conference and the division, should be a good game. Who would have guessed that would be a big game, Montreal against Detroit in January? Who would have thought that back in October? But it is definitely the case. So we look forward to it. Un gros match samedi soir, les Red Wings contre les Canadiens. Samedi soir au Centre Bell. C'est toujours un bon spectacle. On va voir une foule très énervée. On a vu hier soir et ce soir un foule au Centre Bell avec beaucoup d'énergie, et je pense que samedi soir ça va être encore plus d'énergie. I think it'll be even more energetic and crazy and wild at the Bell Center on Saturday. We've seen wild crowds, loud crowds at the Bell Center both tonight and last night, and I think it's going to be even to another level on Saturday. So that will be definitely fun to watch. I will be traveling back to Cape Breton. So I'm not sure I'll be doing a show on Saturday night. If I am, I will see you then. If not, I will see you after. Either way, it's good problems to have. Oh, absolutely, it's a great problem to have, Entertap, and it's way better than the other option, right? It's way better. I mean, we talked about it earlier. It's way better than the way it was back in the day where the Canadiens were struggling with players like let me see who you're talking about Byron Fraze and guys like that who were they were just looking for guys to fill spots in the lineup, and so I think the Canadiens have done a great job, and I'm excited about it. So I hope you guys all have a good night. If you're not yet subscribed, please do so. If you're watching in a replay, thanks so much. I do appreciate it. If you have questions, fire away. Hit the button down below. If you like the content, give us a thumbs up. Again, I hope you all have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the game. We will see you in the next one. Bonsoir tout le monde. On vous verra à la prochaine émission. Bonsoir et salut à la prochaine. Peace out. And my computer's really frozen.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front. Docks to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Tabs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3,